Well, hello and welcome back to another very windy video. I hope you may be able to hear me, or at least hear something I can say. It's absolute blowing a gale. I've just come back on my oldest Volt Pulse bike, and recently I've had a number of people comment on some of my older Volt YouTube videos. I did a lot of videos on these bikes, from basic maintenance to a review to what I thought of them to even a ride out showing you what it's like. Obviously my circumstances over the last few years have changed a little bit. I was thinking of buying another brand new e-bike. By the way, this bike is now coming up for 8 years old. This was bought in 2014. It is on the second replacement battery, which still is 2 years old now, but it still holds up well and it still gets me where I want to go. I still like to pedal it as a normal bike as much as possible for the exercise. And obviously my circumstances have changed a bit. I have certain caring commitments to a family member. So obviously I've had to, change what I probably wanted to do and thought I was going to do. So, I rather shelve the idea at the moment in time of buying a new e-bike, because basically it would, for a long period of its time, it would stand in my garage or in my workshop, as I call it, which I thought was absolutely pointless spending, a minimum probably of £2,500 on a bike to do that, when this bike was still very serviceable. I still have the Volt Pulse X as well. I have two Volt Pulses, the ordinary Pulse and the Pulse X, which isn't, the Pulse X was not manufactured that long. And they both still go very well. And I have been delighted with them. And I know other people have had problems with Volt bikes. I've had rants before about, the price of replacement e-bike batteries, but that goes for all e-bikes, not just Volt, I have to say. And I think it's a very good question that you should be asking if you're out there looking for a new e-bike, and you go, looking at some. You want to ask the bike shop or the manufacturers, how much? Well, firstly, how long is this battery going to last on the bike? And they should say 4 to 5 years. And then you say, well, fine, but surely the bike has got a longer life than that. So how much is a replacement battery going to cost me then? And I think that's a good question that, I didn't ask at the time, or even think about. You only think about the relative, you think, well, I've got X years, with that bike, and but 4 years or 5 years or even 6 years soon go by, and then if you've got an expense of £600-800 to buy a replacement battery, I think that's a bit of a catch, and I think that has got to be addressed with these e-bikes, definitely. So that's one question I'd always ask. Another question that I got asked in one of my videos, do I think e-bikes are suitable for people over 60? Well, I'm over 60, and an e-bike has kept me cycling, because I suffer from time to time from a very bad shoulder. I also had an arm injury. Some concrete blocks fell on that, and so my arm can sometimes be a bit funny. These aren't, these weren't life-threatening or anything like that. It's just basically as old age, and a bit of arthritis. So yes, I think e-bikes are perfect for anyone, any age really. And I reckon, just to give you an indication, I have a couple in the village that I know well, and they were both teachers, and the guy was a PE teacher and had done an awful lot of sport, and he got to retirement age and found that he's basically the doctors told him his knees were worn out, and he, you know, wanted some sort of thing that he could do for exercise. He couldn't go jogging, he couldn't do anything too active to do more damage to his knees. And so I said, well, have you thought about, you know, having an e-bike, and, you know, you can do a little bit of pedal work, you know, to get you that exercise, and then if you find your knees start playing up, you can use the battery. And he said, oh, yeah, I like the sound of that. And they also go touring caravanning, they do, and they went and looked at some folding e-bikes, and now, 4 or 5 years later down the line, they still have the e-bikes. They still go out regularly, even from home on the e-bikes, and he is still awaiting an operation on both knees, but he says, I can manage it, and it's good exercise, and it's the best thing. He always says thank you for recommending that. I would have never ever thought of that or thought it possible. So yeah, I think e-bikes are fantastic for anybody, you know, or if you've not been into cycling for many years and want to go back into cycling, it's a great way, you know, because with this battery and, you know, having that capability, if you've got a headwind like today, if you're running into this really gusty headwind, or you have hills, I have a hill coming up into where I live, quite a very steep hill, and after you've been out on a ride or been commuting or whatever you've been doing on your bike, it's lovely to have that capability, and you know you've got that little bit of boost, and you know you're not going to get all hot and sweaty and bothered, and at my age probably have to get off and walk and push the bike. So yeah, I think e-bikes are really well suited to anybody, any age, as long as they're ridden sensibly. You know, keep them off footpaths, keep them on specified bike paths, you know, that's fine. And as I say, this Volt is now 8 years old, and it's still in super condition. I've well looked after it, and I've done regular maintenance on it, and you know, I basically can't fault the bike. I still do think, and I'm not going to say this about Volt entirely, I still think these e-bike manufacturers need better customer services, and you know, when anything goes wrong, they're very hesitant, and you know, they think you're making this up, what's going wrong with the bike. And obviously, you know, I was always brought up, I worked in a shop from the age of 3. My family had a shop, and you know, I was always taught the customer is always right. Whether after he goes out the shop, everybody moans about him and says, well, you know, he wasn't really right, but the customer is always right. And I think that's what some of these e-bikes and these more modern people selling this stuff need to realise, you know. But apart from that, and apart from the price of the new replacement batteries, but there again, that is on all e-bikes, the build quality of this bike, I can't fault it. Nothing is broken, nothing has fallen off, and this has done many thousands of miles in those 8 years. So I can't, you know, speak any better of it. I've had e-bikes now since 1999, when I first bought one of those power bikes with the three lead acid cells down the frame, and it was really heavy. It was, you know, I'd ridden a Puch Maxi in the 1970s, and I'm sure this power bike was heavier than the little 2-stroke Puch Maxi, you know, 49cc moped. It was, you know, you had to get your balance right on that, but it was a good bike, very poorly made, I think, in my view. I got through 2 of those in about 4.5 years, I think I've said before, one of the welds actually on the frame broke, maybe due to the sheer weight of those 3 batteries, you know, and then, you know, put your bodily weight on that as well. And so still by far the best e-bike I've ever bought. This is for build quality and ride enjoyment, because this is a joy. This bike has been a total joy to ride to me. As some people have said to me, well, yeah, it's very hard going, you know, without the battery. It's quite a heavy bike, and it's true it is, but I still like that. I treat it as exercise and ride it more as a normal bike, and just use that battery boost for when I'm, you know, feeling a bit like in a headwind or up a hill. So to me, it has been, you know, brilliant in that respect. And I'm trying to think probably what I've spent on it. It's had a new chain, a new freewheel, new regular brake pads, tyres, probably a couple on the back, one on the front in those 8 years, a new battery, which Volt kindly in the end discounted. So if you'd have said altogether, I've spent £500 over 8 years, that has been, you know, very cheap transport for me anyway. And because for the first 4.5 years I commuted on this regularly, day in, day out, in all weathers, and it never let me down. So there we go. That's the reason. You know, I really thought I'd done all the videos about this bike and these 2-volt pulses I have, but I thought, you know, with the recent comments that I've got, it would be nice to do a little update and say, yeah, I still go out on it, I still ride it, it's still performing very well, and I still enjoy it immensely. As I say, my own circumstances have changed a little bit, and there just didn't seem any point in even looking at new e-bikes, because there are a new generation of e-bikes out there totally different to this, and obviously, you know, that's for you to go and explore and go and see what you like, you know, and what fits your bill, and you know, gives you the same pleasure that this bike has given me. I feel I would never recommend nothing. This is all these videos on the Volt series that I've done have just been my views and my findings. You know, I know people have had trouble with wheels, and you know, people have had trouble with Volt themselves, but my overall experience has been really good and so enjoyable. So anyway, as always, thank you for watching, and I'm going to put the bike away now because this wind seems to be getting stronger and stronger, and I'm glad I'm back home now after just a short journey on this. So as always, thanks for watching, and as always, I will try and answer any questions on the Volt pulses or any e-bikes and my thoughts on e-bikes. Feel free to comment. I always do appreciate you if you want to subscribe, but that's entirely up to yourself. But thank you if you do or have done. Really appreciate that. And I'll catch up with you very shortly in another video. Until that point in time, my best wishes, and bye for now.